This conversation is powered by Google Illuminate. Check out illuminate.google.com for more. So we're diving deep into India's Code on Wages 2018, a really complex piece of legislation. Are we ready to unravel its intricacies?
Absolutely. This act touches nearly every aspect of employment in India, from minimum wages to bonus calculations. Significant undertaking, yeah.
It's a real labyrinth of definitions, isn't it? Employee-employer wages, each term carries a specific legal weight, you know?
Precisely. The definitions section alone could be a whole discussion. The nuances are crucial for proper interpretation and application, yeah.
And the penalties for non-compliance? Steep, to say the least.
Significant fines and even imprisonment are possible. It really highlights how seriously the government takes adherence to the code.
Okay, let's start with Chapter 1, Preliminary. It establishes the Act's short title, extent, and commencement date. Simple enough, right?
Well, seemingly straightforward, but the commencement clause allows for staggered implementation of different provisions, adding a layer of complexity.
Then we get to the definitions in Section 2, a veritable dictionary of legal terms. What stood out to you as particularly important?
The definition of wages is critical. It meticulously outlines what's included and excluded, impacting calculations for minimum wages and bonus. The exclusions are numerous and need careful consideration. Yeah.
And the distinction between employee and worker? Subtle but significant.
Absolutely. Employee implies a direct employer-employee relationship, while worker is broader, including contract labor, with different implications for rights and responsibilities. The definition of contract labor itself is quite detailed. It is.
The definition of appropriate government also seems crucial, determining which level of government, central or state, has jurisdiction.
Correct. This depends on the nature of the establishment, impacting enforcement and regulatory oversight. This is a key factor in understanding the practical application of the code. I see.
The definition of same work or work of a similar nature is also interesting, especially in the context of gender equality.
Yes, this is central to Section 3, which prohibits gender discrimination in wages for the same or similar work. The definition sets the stage for determining whether work is comparable for wage equality purposes.
Chapter 2 tackles minimum wages. Section 5 prohibits paying less than the notified minimum wage. Seems straightforward, but what are the complexities?
The complexities lie in Section 6, which outlines the process for fixing minimum wages. It considers factors like worker skill, geographical area, and how arduous the one is.
The minimum wage can be fixed by the hour, day, or month. How does that affect calculations?
Section 6 states that the manner of calculating wages for these different periods will be prescribed by rules. This leaves room for further specification and potential variations across different industries or regions.
Right. Section 7 details the components of minimum wages basic rate, cost of living allowance, and concessions. How are these determined?
The cost of living allowance is adjusted based on variations in the cost of living index number, and the cash value of concessions is computed by a designated authority. This ensures that the minimum wage reflects the changing economic conditions.
Section 8 lays out the procedure for fixing and revising minimum wages, involving committees or public notification and consultation.
This ensures transparency and stakeholder participation in the process. The composition of the committees is also specified, ensuring representation from employers, employees, and independent persons.
Section 9 introduces the concept of a floor wage set by the central government, providing a minimum baseline for minimum wages.
The floor wage acts as a safety net, ensuring that minimum wages fixed by state governments don't fall below a nationally determined minimum standard of living. Different floor wages can be set for different geographical areas. Makes sense.
Sections 10-12 address situations where employees work less than a full day or perform multiple classes of work.
These sections ensure fair compensation even in non-standard work situations, preventing exploitation of employees. The rules ensure that employees are paid fairly for the time they work.
Chapter 3 focuses on the payment of wages. Section 15 mandates payment in current coin, currency notes, check, bank transfer, or electronic mode.
The government can specify which establishments must use checks or bank transfers, promoting transparency and reducing the risk of cash-related issues.
Section 16 allows employers to set wage periods, daily, weekly, fortnightly, or monthly, but with a maximum of 1 month.
This provides flexibility while preventing excessively long delays in wage payments. Different wage period can be set for different establishments.
Section 17 specifies time limits for wage payments, varying based on the wage period and circumstances like dismissal or resignation.
These time limits aim to ensure timely payment and prevent delays in receiving wages. The government can also specify other reasonable time limits based on specific circumstances.
Section 18 crucially governs deductions from wages. What are the permissible deductions?
Permissible deductions are strictly limited and include fines, absence from duty, damage to goods, house accommodation, amenities, loan repayments, taxes, and Social Security contributions. The total deductions cannot exceed 50% of wages.
Right. Sections 1924 delve into the specifics of fines, deductions for absence, damage or loss, and recovery of advances and loans.
These sections provide detailed rules and procedures to ensure fairness and prevent arbitrary deductions. They also specify the process for imposing fines and recovering losses. The rules are designed to protect employees from unfair treatment.
Section 25 clarifies that Chapter 3 doesn't automatically apply to government establishments unless specifically notified.
This allows for tailored application of the rules to government establishments considering their unique operational contexts.
Chapter 4 covers the payment of bonus. Section 26 outlines the eligibility criteria and calculation methods.
Eligibility is based on at least 30 days' work in an accounting year, with a minimum bonus of 8.33% of wages earned, or 100 rupees, whichever is higher. This ensures a minimum bonus even if the employer has no allocable surplus.
If the allocable surplus exceeds the minimum bonus, the employer must pay a higher bonus, up to a maximum of 20% of wages.
This incentivizes employers to share profits with employees when the establishment performs well. The calculation of allocable surplus is a complex process involving deductions for prior charges.
It is. Sections 27-30 address proportionate reduction in bonus for less than full-year work, computation of working days, disqualification for bonus, and treatment of establishments with multiple departments or branches.
These sections provide detailed rules for calculating bonus in various scenarios, ensuring fairness and consistency. The rules address situations where employees haven't worked for the full year or where the establishment has multiple departments.
Section 31-36 deal with calculation of allocable surplus, so gross profits, available surplus, and the set-on and set-off mechanism for carrying forward excess or deficient surplus.
This is a complex area involving accounting principles and tax calculations. The rules aim to ensure that bonus payments are based on the actual financial performance of the establishment. The process involves careful consideration of various factors, including tax liabilities and depreciation.
Sections 37-39 address adjustments for customary bonuses, deductions for employee misconduct, and time limits for bonus payments.
These sections provide clarity on how to handle situations where bonuses have already been paid partially or where employee misconduct has resulted in financial losses to the employer. The rules ensure that bonus payments are made in a timely manner.
Chapter 5 establishes central and state advisory boards to advise on minimum wages, employment opportunities for women, and other matters.
These boards ensure stakeholder participation in policymaking and promote transparency and fairness. The composition of the boards is specified to ensure representation from employers, employees, and independent persons.
Chapter 6 deals with the payment of dues, claims, and audit procedures. Section 43 clarifies employer responsibility for payments.
This section holds employers accountable for timely and accurate payments. It also clarifies the responsibility of the company or firm in case of non-payment.
Section 44 addresses the payment of undisbursed dues in case of employee death or unknown whereabouts.
This section ensures that employees' dues are not lost in case of unforeseen circumstances. The rules specify the process for handling such situations.
Section 45 outlines the procedure for filing and resolving claims arising under the code.
This section provides a mechanism for employees to seek redressal for unpaid dues or other violations of the code. The rules specify the process for filing claims and the powers of the authority to resolve disputes.
Section 46 clarifies that disputes regarding bonus or the application of the code to public sector establishments are considered industrial disputes.
This section provides a mechanism for resolving disputes through established industrial dispute resolution mechanisms.
Sections 47-48 deal with the presumption of accuracy of audited accounts and the audit of accounts for employers who are not corporations or companies.
These sections aim to streamline the process of resolving disputes by establishing a presumption of accuracy for audited accounts. The rules also provide a mechanism for auditing accounts in cases where the accounts haven't been audited by a qualified auditor.
Section 29 outlining the appeal process against orders passed by the claim authority.
This section provides a mechanism for appealing against decisions made by the claim authority. The rules specify the process for filing appeals and the powers of the appellate authority.
Section 50 mandates the maintenance of registers, display of notices, and issuance of wage slips by employers.
These provisions promote transparency and accountability in wage payments. The rules specify the details that must be included in the registers, notices, and wage slips.
Chapter 7 introduces inspector-cum-facilitators, their appointment, powers, and responsibilities.
These officers play a crucial role in enforcing the code, providing advice, conducting inspections, and investigating violations. Their powers are clearly defined to ensure that they act within the bounds of the law.
Chapter 8 outlines offenses and penalties. Section 52 specifies the procedure for taking cognizance of offenses.
This section clarifies who can file complaints and which courts have jurisdiction to hear cases. The rules ensure that offenses are investigated and prosecuted effectively.
Section 53 grants the appropriate government the power to appoint officers to impose penalties in certain cases.
This allows for efficient resolution of minor violations without lengthy court proceedings. The rules specify the process for imposing penalties and the powers of the officers.
Section 54 details penalties for various offenses, including underpayment of wages, non-compliance with other provisions, and improper maintenance of records.
These penalties are designed to deter violations and ensure compliance with the code. The penalties are significant, reflecting the seriousness with which the government views violations of the code.
Section 55 addresses offenses committed by companies, holding both the company and responsible individuals accountable.
This section ensures that companies cannot evade responsibility for violations by hiding behind corporate structures. The rules clarify the liability of both the company and its officers.
Section 6 allows for the composition of offenses in certain cases, providing a mechanism for resolving disputes outside of court.
This section provides a mechanism for resolving disputes without resorting to lengthy court proceedings. The rules specify the conditions under which offenses can be compounded and the process for doing so.
Chapter 9 covers miscellaneous provisions. Section 57 bars suits for recovery of wages or bonus if the matter is already covered under the code.
This prevents parallel proceedings and ensures efficient resolution of disputes.
Section 58 protects the appropriate government and its officers from legal action for actions taken in good faith.
This provision protects government officials from frivolous lawsuits and encourages them to act decisively in enforcing the code.
Section 59 places the burden of proof on the employer in cases of non-payment or underpayment of wages or bonus.
This provision shifts the onus of proof to the employer, making it easier for employees to establish their claims.
Section 60 declares null and void any contract where an employee relinquishes rights under the code.
This provision protects employees from being coerced into waiving their rights under the code.
Section 61 ensures that the code prevails over any inconsistent laws, agreements, or contracts.
This provision establishes the code as the supreme law in matters related to wages and bonus.
Section 62 allows for the delegation of powers by the appropriate government.
This provision allows for efficient administration of the code by enabling delegation of certain powers to subordinate officers or authorities.
Section 63 provides an exemption for employers who have taken due diligence but are still charged with an offense.
This provision protects employers who have taken reasonable steps to comply with the code but are still implicated due to the actions of others.
Section 64 protects employer assets from attachment except for debts to employees related to a specific contract.
This provision protects employer assets from being seized for debts unrelated to a specific contract.
This provision protects employer assets from being seized for debts unrelated to employee wages. Section 65 allows the central government to issue directions to state governments for the code's implementation.
This provision ensures uniformity in the implementation of the code across different states.
Section 66 clarifies that the code does not affect the provisions of the Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act 2005 and the Coal Mines Provident Fund and Miscellaneous Provisions Act 1948.
This provision ensures that the code does not conflict with other existing legislation.
Section 67 grants the appropriate government the power to make rules for carrying out the provisions of the code.
This provision allows for flexibility in adapting the code to specific circumstances and ensuring its effective implementation. The rules provide detailed guidance on various aspects of the code.
Section 68 provides the central government with the power to address difficulties in implementing the code.
This provision allows for flexibility in addressing unforeseen challenges in implementing the code.
Section 69 repeals previous legislation and provides for savings.
This section ensures a smooth transition to the new code while preserving the validity of actions taken under the repealed legislation.
Wow, this comprehensive overview highlights the complexity and far-reaching implications of the Code on Wages 2019. Thank you for this detailed explanation. The intricacies of this code are truly remarkable.
Yeah, the code is a significant piece of legislation, and understanding its nuances is crucial for both employers and employees.
That was a great discussion.